Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yvonne Kronlage. I'll open with this photo of her, a subtle reminder of the 50-year impact on U.S. table tennis she's had. Maiden's name Lescure. Correct? Lescure was a nursery school teacher in London, England, when she was offered a job in the U.S. as a governess for 3 kids, age 4, 2, and 6 weeks. She accepted. And here she is, April 1955, still a teenager, on the SS United States, seeming to have her hands full with just one of her charges. After settling in Washington, D.C., she became a hostess at a USO club in Lafayette Square. And although she'd never played table tennis before, she took on the servicemen who came there. Despite being dressed for play in appropriate hostess attire, tight skirts and high heels, she almost always got the better of her challengers. Since she met Kay Young, a local tournament player, and became aware of DC's 9th Street Club, where veteran Jimmy Verta played and coached. That's him, then and now, still going strong at 97. It was at this club in 1957 that she met her future husband, fellow player Carl Kronlage, an electrical engineer who'd have a lifetime career at the National Security Agency. What the hell he was doing there, I'm not sure. They would have 2 children, Kurt, now 50, and Yvette, now 47. And of course, as the kids grew up, there would always be a table tennis table in their home. Yvonne and Carl's home away from home at this time was the Prince George's Table Tennis Club, which they co-managed with Bowie and Melba Martin. Here's a county commissioner, Robert F. Steffen, flanked to his right by the Martins, and to his left by the Kronlages, as USTTA President Martin Kilpatrick looks on. The commissioner is presenting a plaque to kick off the club's official opening. A year later, the 2 couples would open a larger club in Hyattsville, which after Bowie and Melba left for North Carolina, was taken over by Cy Ratner, who'd helped Yvonne get her first car, the kind of car he liked, a Fiat. Cy, shown here in the first of a number of successive photos by Mal Anderson, was the 1959 U.S. Esquire champion, and as his name Ratner suggests, was in the exterminating business. Yvonne would continue opening and working for various clubs in Maryland for decades. I don't know, that is one hell of a trophy for a guy who wins the over 50s, right? Did anybody in the room ever get such a trophy? I think not. In 1961, at the U.S. Open Team Championships, Yvonne and Carl shared the spotlight. In women's play, Yvonne won the Outstanding Player Award. She beat next year's Canadian national champion, Velta Admanis, and her win over Hall of Fame Pauline Samail was key to DC's runner-up 5-4 win over California. For some reason or other, Pauline Samail from New York is playing for California, But in those days, that wasn't too surprising in the NTCs. In the men's, Carl, perhaps using his homemade racket that had a handle 6 inches larger than standard, downed the legendary Dick Miles. 1963 was a year of twin triumphs for Yvonne. At the US Open, she paired with visiting English star Derek Badley, who was using the new loop stroke. Perhaps some of you know this stroke by this time, yes? They did well, reached the final of the mixed, beating Saul Schiff and Leah Newberger. Tybee, are you listening to this? Beating Saul Schiff and Leah Newberger in the semis. Then, that fall, Yvonne partnered with Julia Utilionis and Donna Jameson, later Sakai, to win the US Open Women's Team Championship. You still have that trophy, Donna, someplace? Donna, are you here?
I'm here.
For the 1964-65 season, Yvonne was ranked US number 7 in women's singles. Respectable enough. For a time then, she gave less emphasis to playing and was more into organizational work. She'd not only been a Topics Woman of the Month in 1972, she went on year in and year out to be a very strong force for women's rights in our sport.
Why not?
Anybody care about that? Why shouldn't women play their final on center court like the men? Why isn't there a women's captain for a women's team? A succession of captaincies would be in Yvonne's future at the Toronto CNE, the US Open, a tournament abroad to which she took a US girls team. At the 1983 World Championships in Gothenburg, Sweden, she shared duties with men's captain coach Hushang Zorgzadeh. Hushang, are you here? That's an amazing picture. You don't look anything like that now. Regarding the women players, Angelita Rosal, later Bengston, Kasia Davidovich Gaka, Alice Green, and Insuk Bushan, she said she didn't play favorites, but you might argue that then or later, Angie got special attention from her. This is a kind of mask as to what happened. So, obviously, the USTTA never had Yvonne's equal as a women's committee chair. On she goes, urging the necessary transformations. Why, in the history of the sport, have there been so few women on the USTTA Executive Committee? Huh? Do you know the answer to that, Kavanaugh? No. She would serve 3 terms on the EC, in 79 as treasurer, and in 87 and 89 as vice president. How about a babysitter section at tournaments? Why is there never a girls' camp? And so saying, she ran one with over 20 participants. And where the hell did they stay? At your place?
Yeah.
20 people at your place.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a women's senior event at the close? Why isn't there? And so one began and featured and an intense over 40 rivalry with Yvonne and Pat Crowley Hodgins. Yvonne beat her in the US Open from 78 through 81. Then split with her in the U.S. closed from 80 through 84. That's a kind of funny athletic pose, if I may say so, Yvonne. Yvonne would go on in her 50s, 60s, and 70s to get women's events into major tournaments, quite a number of which she would then go on to win. Yvonne was always interested in sport at large. Unhesitatingly, she did service outside the U.S., even if it meant paying her own way. In 1977, she helped get butterfly playing uniforms for our team and enjoyed being part of the U.S. entourage at the Birmingham, England World Championships. Well, you have to look closely to see where she is and where, of course, Husheng's right there in front where everybody can see him. Okay. In 1979, she was team manager coach of the first U.S. men's and women's teams to the Pan Am Games in Puerto Rico. In 1982, at the first World Veterans Championships in Sweden, she was a silver medal winner in women's over 40 doubles with Swedish partner Pedersen. At home, she founded and was longtime president of the Maryland TTA. She organized, sometimes with Bob Kaminsky's help, tournament majors and minor tournaments. A $10,000 Maryland Open stands out. Here's a shot from one of her Eastern Opens. That's winner Danny Seymour with Yvonne and Bob. Danny, you here?
Yep.
All right, there you are.
Looks good.
Yvonne's always been very involved in helping women and juniors, sometimes supported by benefactor Catherine Harding. She's given many talks and exhibitions in Maryland malls and schools. She's enjoyed running several USTTA-sanctioned camps in Maryland. As early 80s, one was billed as an Olympic camp with high-powered coaches Eileen Guo, Ricky Seymour, and Sweden's Jens Felke. These coaches might also be called upon to judge the Olympic winners of such free time activities as the raw egg toss and the watermelon seed spitting contest. She actually had these contests, all right? And I doubt if anybody in the room has participated in such a thing. Sean had. Bravo, Sean.
I was at the camp.
Of course, Yvonne has continually supported the Maryland State Games. Here's an example of a classy-looking Maryland team. And she's also supported the Maryland Senior Olympics, so much so that it was just a matter of time before she was inducted into the Maryland Senior Hall of Fame. In 1982, she founded the annual 10-tournament Howard County Circuit. This is the annual circuit. And amazingly, it ran for 30 years, up until last year. Here's an early $1,000 winner, Sean O'Neill. You put on some weight, Sean.
Thank you, Tim.
And here's the final $2,000 one, winner Julian Waters, who I think is also here someplace. Huh? Finishing off the 3-decade event with an icing on the cake inscription, MD Circuit, 30 years. Yvonne's not only done a great amount of table tennis work in Maryland, but often at her own expense around the country. At the sport's later Olympic festivals, for example, here are the 1981 festival players and officials with President Saul Schiff at the center of it all. Yvonne is first row, 5th from the right, and here she is 10 years later, still a big part of the festival, taking a break with officials Dr. Michael Scott and Bob Partridge, stacking those plans so Yvonne's apparently seeing how much beer she can drink during her free time.
Right. I remember they gave you beer before the drug test.
Yeah?
No, it's true.
All right, I believe you. Free time. She doesn't have much of that. Always ambitious. She started a new live-in Eastern training center with national coach Richard McAfee as director and China's Ji Yong Wong as assistant coach. We can see that at least 2 of the students, the Ko brothers, are enjoying themselves, working hard. In 1988, Yvonne went to the French Championships to pursue a dream that became a reality. She successfully bid for and got sanction approval for an unprecedented tripartite tournament of World Veterans Championship, Junior International Championships, and U.S. Open Championships, held in 1990 in Baltimore with a host of help, including Tournament Operations Committee co-chairs Dennis Masters and Donna Sakai, and benefactor Martin Staley, who at the opening ceremony sang the national anthem. This much anticipated tournament almost turned Yvonne's dream into a nightmare. But with her customary driving force, Yvonne was willing to take risks, got into trouble, have serious organizational training and staffing problems, be criticized, fail, succeed. When much was chaotic, Yvonne coolly, courageously took the mic and gradually provided a stable finish to the tournament, which later brought a number of appreciative remarks from players. Such gutsy effort also brought her a commemorative award. In 1994, Yvonne finally got the sense of approval for her work that she too often had seemed lacking. Here, being congratulated by Hall of Famer Jimmy McClure, she was, of course, very proud to have been inducted into our hall. And in 1996, she enjoyed the honor of working in the Atlanta Olympics under table tennis Commissioner McAfee, and would enjoy working with Richard again, for example, at the 2000 Junior Olympics. But whether Yvonne was playing in tournaments, working at them, or not, table tennis wasn't an all-consuming affair to her. From 1990 until a half a dozen or so years into the new millennium, Yvonne ran a petting zoo on her farm, which, considering she took care of over 70 animals, many who'd been abused or abandoned, necessitated quite a bit of non-table tennis and not always such pleasant work. Nowadays, the kids and many of the animals are gone, but she still has horses. And last year, another honor, the 2012 Lions Club Award for her 10 or more years of humanitarian service with them. Humanitarian service. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree that's an appropriately memorable way to describe Yvonne's more than 50 years contribution to our sport. Please join our board of directors in applauding this evening as she receives our prestigious Mark Matthews Lifetime Achievement Award.
Give her the cup first.
The cup.
Give her the cup.
Who gets the cup? She gets it or I get it? She gets it.
It's glass.
All right, this cup is 1931, won by Marcus Schushheim, later Matthews, Mark Matthews. 1931, APPA, American Ping Pong Association, Parker Brothers, first one, 1931, okay? This is what? This year is what? 1980-something. That's a long time. And this is beautiful.
First of all, I want to thank the committee that voted me in for this award. I want to thank the whole thing. And I want to thank USTTA, for without the USTTA, I wouldn't be standing up here now. Even though I don't agree with everything the USTTA does, or did, I do applaud them for what they've achieved. It's made a lot of people happy, a lot of people athletic, and I've made a lot of friends. The thing is, I was originally in athletics. I was a high jumper, and I was training for the Olympic Games in England. And I was aiming for the 1956 Olympics. But then I had a choice, and it was a big choice. Either to carry on for the Olympics or come to the United States. And I chose the United States, which I have no regrets. But I did keep on training here until the winter came. And when the winter came, Georgetown University wouldn't let me use their gym because I wasn't a student and their insurance wouldn't cover it. So I finally gave up. And I went to the USO in Lafayette Square, and I became a hostess at the USO. Whereas in their cafeteria, they had 2 table tennis tables. I'd never heard of paddle before in my hand. But somebody wanted me to play, and I did, and as Tim said, in high heel shoes and tie skirts. And before I knew it, none of them could beat me, and there was a line of soldiers all behind waiting to play me. And then a petty officer from the Philippines came up to me and said, "How would you like to go to the DC Table Tennis Club?" So I said, "Sure." And he took me there. And Kay Young, which you saw, she was the first player I ever played with. And I never stopped. And I had made wonderful friends. Jim Verda, who ran the club. I met the Chamesons, whose mother, Leona Chameson, and I became very good friends. And she kind of took me under her wing and kind of adopted me into the family of the Chamesons. So Donna and Barbara are my adopted sisters, right there. Donna is the godparent of my child. Okay, I'm the godparent of her child. I was matron of honor at 8 months pregnant at Barbara's wedding. They thought I was going to pass out because it was a 4-hour ceremony. But I didn't, I held in there. So we've been very close all these years. And from there on, we've gotten closer. And we are really good friends. And with the table tennis clubs, I now don't have a club because our club was flattened in September. And I feel like a prawn out of its shell. I need a club. I want to play table tennis. So 14 clubs I've run, and I'm now trying to get to 50, which I have a building, but it has a cement floor. I need a floor to continue this. But there's not much else I can say. Tim has covered it all. This sport has really saved my life. I've never been bored. I've made many friends. And I thank you all for coming here tonight. And I thank all the committee. And I'm losing my memory right now. I'm trying to think of a name and it just doesn't come. But anyway, I thank you all. And it's been a great 58 years that I've put into this table tennis. And I tell you, I don't regret a minute of it. Thank you. This is really nice. Go on my manager.
Yeah.